What's up, everybody? Thanks for checking me out as always. Let's go. Ghost, bring it in, baby. Ain't so fast. Going last now. News, bad news. Sorry, FANtano. Don't stand now. I want my bitch. Shout out to Lil B. Always. He's the top. We're gonna stop now. That's that hip hop shit, man. I'm sorry, but what is Scam? What's his name? Scram Jones? The fuck is he doing on Supreme Clientele 2? Right? We got beats like this. Even Silver Rings did this beat. Shout out to Silver Rings. I don't think Silver Rings is like the greatest producer ever by any stretch of the imagination, but he's got like one or two great beats, genuinely great beats, right? Or I would say genuinely good beats, not like beats that like, again, there's levels to this shit, not like game-changing beats, but certainly one or two great beats where you're like, yeah, that's a great beat. Yeah, I'm glad that they rapped on it. There's one I forget. I'll have to try and find it another time. But Silver Rings has some shit. But again, it's like, why Scram Jones, right? And that brings me to my man FANtano, who seems to have caught in a stroke of death. Yeah, Solomon Mark for life, for living the life, thug for life, forever I'm the kid. Shout out to Solomon Childs, man. Oh my God, Supreme Clientele. Okay, here's the issue, right? If you were to play this for FANtano would be like, this is trash. Why is he a hip-hop critic again? What exactly makes FANtano anyone that someone should listen to? Now, I'm sure y'all have heard about FANtano being exposed as possibly a closet racist, and you know, people are giving their opinions on whether he's really a racist or not and all this stuff. I think they're missing the point. I don't know FANtano in real life. I've never met him. I don't have a relationship with the dude, so I can't really say for sure whether he's a racist or not. I honestly think to a certain extent, some of these, bloggers who are making these comments are kind of fishing for attention. And they're being a little harsh in certain cases, right? So because FANtano repeats a word that someone else says in some kind of corny troll chat, therefore FANtano's a racist, it doesn't really work like that. Like, let's address the real racism here, by the way. The real racism is, how does a random white boy like FANtano become hip-hop's most visible critic? That's the sign of actual racism at work. It's a structural problem. Okay, let me get into this, right? The problem for me with FANtano is, again, not because he's white guy. It's that doesn't really have talent. He doesn't have hip hop talent. That's really the issue. His opinion is dumb. He says dumb shit repeatedly, and it comes from a place of someone who doesn't even like rap. Let me check my notes on this because I really want to just expose this, since I don't really talk about people in general, but I have thought about doing this, and this has come up. So it's not like I'm looking for beef, but because this is sort of a news story, I thought I'd give my 2 cents. The issue here is that FANtano doesn't understand hip-hop. He's wrong on so many hip-hop albums that come out, right? Now, it's easy for someone like FANtano to go back and do Illmatic, Infamous, Retreads, because everyone knows those albums are amazing. You know that by now, right? Again, back in 2003, it wasn't that obvious, unless you were a hip-hop head, of course, you were in those communities. But now it's like there's a million write-ups about it. FANtano's just jumping on the bandwagon. Okay, so for him to make a video about Illmatic, for example, doesn't really impress me. Okay, you've been known, everyone knows that this is the good stuff. And this is the problem I have with a lot of these untalented people in general. They are bandwagoners at the end of the day. They don't have original thoughts, so they just ride the wave of other people's shit, right? Now, the real test to me is when new stuff comes to you, are you able to, if you truly have the talent for this and you truly are analytical and smart enough, when new stuff comes out that's fire, do you even know about it? Do you review it? Do you see it for what it is? Here's a guy who, I'm not sure if he reviewed if you're reading this is too late. He might have given it a good rating. I don't know. I don't really follow FANtano too much. I was initially after that ASAP Rocky interview. And let me again go back to the issue with racism here. The problem is, guys, vultures like FANtano sneak in when we, as a collective, hip hop collective, are at our weakest. And hip hop journalism is still in a state of complete disarray. It was terrible. When FANtano did the LiveLoveASAP review, and I'll try to see if I can pull this up here. I actually thought this was one of the best reviews at that time, right? And he says LiveLoveASAP is still fantastic. So he did nail this, actually, ultimately, right? But it's not like his review was so brilliant. It really wasn't. It's just that he chose to actually review the music. Combat Jack's review was actually better. For those of y'all who are around, shout out to Combat Jack, RIP. Combat Jack and FANtano are probably the only people, because I remember at the time being blown away by LiveLoveASAP. They're the only people I know that reviewed the actual damn album. Everyone else was reviewing, oh, Rocky's got a record deal, and, is $3 million really worth it? And, wow, he's a guy from New York that sounds Southern. And I was like, okay, yeah, but what about the beats? What about the music? Tell me more about the music. And none of them ever talked about it. They just talked about surface level stuff. And again, this is where we talk about hip hop journalism being in the absolute toilet. FANtano and Combat Jack were really the only people that actually reviewed the music. So it made and this is, again, you latch on because LiveLoveASAP is the best rap album, hands down, of the new generation. So when you have a critic that latches on early to something that really most hip hop, so-called hip hop listeners, or I should say critics, who are supposed to be savvy, they're supposed to do their homework, and they actually missed the boat. But FANtano catches the boat. That gives him credibility. That's my point, right? It comes from a place of weakness, really, in the hip-hop community. And I blame the hip-hop community for letting someone like FANtano become a guy. In fact, y'all might remember, let me see if I can find this. And then I blame Danny Brown for even bringing this nigga up, right? Because Danny Brown leaned on FANtano so hard, to the detriment, in my opinion, of his career. Because he started making music for FANtanos of the world, and now he's irrelevant, right? I'm sorry, Danny. That's kind of a hard shot. Because Danny Brown has talent. Okay, I knew Danny Brown since Monopoly and all that. Like, when I heard Monopoly, I was like, oh, okay. And then I went back and listened to the Nana song and a bunch of stuff. But he just went into this, like, when he was doing Old English and all that garbage ass shit that it was like, that was not hip hop. Again, he was getting ratings, I'm sure. He was getting ratings from people like FANtano, and it worked. But it works until it doesn't work, because ultimately, FANtanos will never listen to you long term. You're kind of cool and disposable for a hot minute. But FANtanos of the world want black artists that people respect in the grand scheme of things. So yes, they'll latch on to Nas and Mobb Deep now. But if Nas and Mobb Deep listened to corny white people while they were doing their, making their best work, they wouldn't be where they are right now. Get what I'm saying? Anyway. So FANtano has been doing these music reviews and just been missing. And it's kind of wild to watch him. And this is kind of when I started going like, wait a second. This nigga doesn't know shit. Not N-word, but you get my point, right? Like, for example. So this dude does a review of Playboi Carti's Self-Titled, which, in my opinion, like I said, one of the greatest rap albums by the new generation. Easy. It's better than anything Lil Wayne has ever made in his life. It's better than anything Kanye has ever made in his life. Respectfully, okay? Production-wise, even rhyme-wise, to be real, okay? Playboi, again, tochiRTA. You guys are going to go back 5-10 years from now, and you'll still be able to listen to Self-Titled. I'm not saying that it's Cuban Links. It's not. It's not on that level, okay? It's not like upper echelon shit, necessarily. But in terms of actual replayable music stuff that makes a statement, that, again, is what hip-hop is supposed to be. Fly, do some cool shit, do something unique, and make it work. Self-Titled is up there, especially for the new generation. Anyway, the point is, he says this is the most mindless listens he's had to in 2017. That's because he's mindless and he doesn't get it. Okay? He missed this. I don't even think he reviewed the Pop Smoke Meet the Woo 1. Did he? I think he missed the boat on that. How are you a hip-hop critic and you miss the boat on the biggest rapper in the street coming out in, like, what was it, 2019? Yeah, 2019. You just missed that shit. You don't even review it. You don't know what's going on. This is my problem. This guy doesn't know fuck all. So if he cannot tell you what's new and dope that's coming out, why is he reviewing hip hop? Oh, because hip hop is a lick for him. And this is the thing with needledrop. Now let's go to needledrop. I'll show you something. See, look at him. This is a goofy white boy. At the end of the day, that's what he is. Like, respectfully, he's not a fly white guy. There are fly white guys out here, okay, who know hip hop, who are at least know it enough to enjoy it. And it's not like they have to dress fly necessarily. They're just fly. They have a certain taste. They understand this rap shit. They may have more than one black friend. Okay. FANtano is the kind of person that probably has one, if zero, but maybe that one token, nig that's in his presence. He doesn't really know this shit, right? I mean, hip hop's a joke to him, right? So again, why would I care what his opinion is on anything? Once you figure out these guys and how they roll, I've seen a million FANtanos before, and there will be more FANtanos after, okay? Now, what I want to point out here is, let's look at his most popular reviews, right? Look at this. See, FANtano understands, he's not stupid. He understands that there is a market for a white guy who's a casual to speak on hip hop, a black art form, because other white casuals want to see a white face talk about hip hop. They're not going to listen to me. They find me threatening, right? They will say, oh, this guy, he doesn't like he doesn't like Kanye West. I love Kanye West, so I'm going to go listen to FANtano, right? Look at FANtano's channel. This is a metalhead dweeb, right? But his biggest views come from sucking off Kendrick Lamar, Tyler the Creator, Kanye West. Literally some of the worst rappers to ever do this, okay? Who don't even make hip-hop music and pretty much never have, okay, on their own as solo. Of course, Kanye is one of the greatest rap producers, but you already know how I feel about Kanye, and I give people their props. I don't like Kanye necessarily as a solo artist, I never did, but I give him props for what he does. Right? I'm one of those people. I actually will give more props than you would think. But look at this. Look at his most popular. He's not stupid. He understands that he's vulturing, right? All of this. Eminem. This is his whole shtick, right? He's a rap channel for casuals. And I can't stop him from doing this. I don't necessarily, it's not my place to stop him. But my point is, the hip-hop community should definitely not be paying attention to this dude. And when Danny Brown made that video and he was talking to ASAP, yo, you took out that guy, FANtano, I'm like, don't do that, man. Don't do that. Like, we don't care about this guy's opinion. You already know what it is. So, I just think it's interesting. And this guy was talking that Death Grips garbage. Nobody, remember that shit? MF Doom, worst to best. This nigga don't listen to MF Doom. He doesn't know shit about MF Doom. Okay. Then we get to Radiohead. Okay, finally. But all this is all, again, it's rap, but it's really pop. Pop for kind of the white casuals, less threatening. Now, what do I think is interesting? That conversation that y'all don't want to have. Here's a guy who's the most visible Kendrick Lamar stan on the internet, right? This guy is a Kendrick Lamar shill. That's what he is, 1,000%. He's probably getting paid. I mean, I don't know. But I'm sure Interscope and Kendrick's team have reached out to him on certain things. I'm sure. And he also was going after Drake a lot. Again, that's that sort of, white boy racist shit, but we'll talk about that another time. But this is Kendrick Lamar's biggest fan. And it turns out that he's actually a closet racist, or he probably is, or at least a corny white dweeb. Oh, what a shock. So when I made this video back then, you're not the only one who think Kendrick sucks, and I called Kendrick Lamar the white rapper. Wow, I can't believe it's been 7 years since I made this video. I don't even check the views on this. 68,000. What? Right here in my crib, man. I know, look, listen, tochiRTA, I understand the kind of people that listen to certain types of rap. Okay, I've been listening to rap since the early 90s, really, but really heavily since the mid to late 90s. Okay, you see them come and you see them go. The last thing I want to bring up, I remember meeting this one older white dude. He wasn't that much older, but he was probably like in his 50s at the time. And we were talking, he was like, I used to have a rap label. I was like, really? And this is a guy who Again, he's like FANtano in a sense, right? Like nothing about him says hip hop. You know, like certain people, you listen to rap, you can kind of tell. Not that you have to force it, but you can just tell, oh, okay, this is a person who's down. And he's like, yeah, I used to, I had a rap label. I put out some stuff. And he's like, I had a couple of artists. He mentioned artists, never heard of them. They weren't very good. I Googled them later. They weren't good. But I said, oh, well, are you a huge hip hop fan? He's like, not really. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, and he was very, very honest about it. He said, the reason I decided to start a label was I was reading an article back in 1998 or 99, maybe early 1999. And it was an article probably from Billboard or something like that. And the article was saying that rap sales have surpassed every other genre. I want to say like album sales. There was a particular point. This is, again, shortly after Big's death. And I always talk about how the deaths of Pac and Big, unfortunately, really took hip-hop into a tailspin that we may never recover from, really and truly. Because it made hip-hop become like about beef and violence and drama. Because they were getting so much press off these two deaths in particular. And again, these two are some of the best rappers ever. But just that, the sheer amount of publicity that those two generated. The genre just was like, it was like a freaking napalm bomb. And all of a sudden, it's like twice the amount of people that were listening in 96 now are listening in 97, and now in 90. It's like, can you imagine that kind of growth? You're a record executive, and you're watching a genre you used to have, let's say you used to think about, okay, I can sell this album to like, let's say 2 or 3 million people at most. And now all of a sudden, in the span of 2 years, you can sell it to maybe 10 million people? The same music, the same genre? It's freaking insane. Anyway, the point is, he read this article, and he said rap is the #1 genre. And he said, okay, I need to set up a rap label and make money. That's it. That's the only reason. You have to understand, people are opportunists. And I'm not just saying that it's just white people. Of course not. People are opportunists across the board. And opportunism is not a bad thing. I don't look at it as bad. I respect capitalism. I really and truly do. And I respect people who have a vision and they go, okay, you know what? Actually, I think this might work. Let me try this. But I don't respect vultures. I just don't. Why would I respect a vulture? Right? It's one thing to have an idea and then try to execute that the best way you can. And this is where I get back to FANtano being a terrible critic. He clearly doesn't care enough about hip hop to actually do his homework on the shit and to become better. It's one thing you miss once or twice, okay, fine, as you're getting along. But this dude has actually gotten worse. And I've seen some of his critiques going back, I don't know, maybe a year or so. He clearly does not care about the quality of hip-hop criticism that he gives. He just doesn't care. That's a vulture. And that's why y'all should have been kicked him out. But you didn't. And now you're trying to do the argument of like, is he really racist? You're falling into that identity trap. And again, that's a trap because it doesn't really matter, right? What really matters is that his criticism is corny and garbage. Lastly, I will say on that note, I think is actually really interesting, is your generation, and I say this to the generation of people that kind of came up in really in the last 20 years, actually, artistically, we're starting to see that really stuff in the last 20 years has been complete garbage. Like me and others were saying when we were getting gaslit like crazy. And we were saying, man, this shit sucks. What the fuck? No. You're behind the curve. You're a hater. Okay. And it's like we're seeing a lot of stuff crash and burn. A lot of stuff crash and burn, low key. Metro Boomin, for example, right now, I remember when y'all was sucking off Metro Boomin. And shout out to Metro Boomin, because I do think Metro Boomin is dope. I put him on the greatest hip-hop list. But I didn't put him as high as probably some other people thought that he should be. In fact, I think I was being generous to Metro, if I'm being real here. Metro Boomin really had, let's say, 5 years of relevance, right? Of like really peak, like people were paying attention to him. I would argue, when did Karate Chop come out? Karate Chop remix, which was dope with Future. 2013, exactly. From 2013 to Mask Off, that's when Metro was Metro. Okay, and Mask Off was 2017, I believe. That was kind of the last time. Again, just music alone. I'm not talking about like that with beef and stupid shit, because beef can work temporarily, but then again, we see that no one gives a fuck afterward because it's artificial. That's the problem when you just rely on beef and not actually the quality of music. But the point is, Metro was putting out quality beats from 2013 to 2017, let's just say. He had about 4 years where people thought he was, or I should say, magazines sold him as being the greatest hip hop producer ever and all this kind of crazy nonsense, okay? Now, again, I think Metro is dope. I do think that Metro is one of the best hip hop producers of the new generation, and I think he was important because he actually gave legitimacy to the new generation. A lot of y'all were trash. I remember Lex Luger. Lex Luger was garbage. Most of his stuff was horrible, right? So it was a welcome kind of, and I love Clams, you know that, but Clams is not mainstream. So Metro was a nice sort of mainstream but still hip hop producer that a lot of us could get behind, and we go, okay, great. But of course, people suck him off because they want to sell they want clout, they want to sell their magazine or their YouTube channel or whatever. And now we're barely into the mid 2020s, and Metro's falling off. We don't give a fuck, and this stuff is like people are like, oh, you're washed, we don't care. That's crazy. Meanwhile, you guys were trying to get him on the list with people like Primo and Timbaland, who literally were making bangers for decades. Not a couple years. Not a couple years. Decades. Primo came out in the game in the mid to late 80s. Okay. I would say he really started to hit a stride in like the early 90s. Let's say 93-ish. Right? Hard to Earn. That's to me when he really hit a stride. And he was that guy in hip hop circles. And I'm talking that dude. He was that guy in hip hop circles till pretty much 2011. Okay? That's a long time. That's talent. Timbaland, same shit. Timbaland was out in 95-ish? When did Pony come out? And he was killing it till, you could argue, 2007, 2008, and then he even did some stuff with Bryson Tiller, which was dope. So Timbaland's kind of always been in the mix. Again, decades. See, the problem is we've lived in this era now where there's so much shills. Like, shout out to Eric Weber, my man. This shill culture has ruined so much shit. And a lot of these shills are so bad because ultimately what they do is they desecrate the art form and they lower the bar constantly. And they basically make it okay for artists to just drop whatever, as long as it fits an identity or a trend or whatever is going on. Okay? And so, backtrack to what I was going to say, why this ties into FANtano, is I used to get gaslit for years about, well, this the new generation of social media. People want authenticity. They want you to, because now you can see someone's Instagram account or their YouTube channel. They're closer to the audience than the stars of before, where it's almost you had to catch. The only way you saw them was through newspapers or TV. It's not like you were necessarily around them, right? And so people were saying, nah, you're just stuck in the past. You want all the mystique in the past, but in the new generation, the artists are much more honest, and they just post about their real lives, and people want to see that. And it's like, oh, so you mean to tell me that FANtano was likely, I mean, again, I can't say for sure, FANtano was a closet racist this entire time, and y'all are just figuring out? This guy's been on the internet for 20 years or so, and you're just figuring out that this guy might be a closet racist? See how fake your era is, respectfully? It doesn't matter. The social media, all that shit doesn't matter. People put out images all the time. If you're going to be a fraud, you're going to be a fraud. If you're a fraud in 1980, you're going to be a fraud in 2025. It's all the same. Technology doesn't make someone less fraudulent, okay? It's the personality of the individual that chooses to be a fraud or not. And this is kind of my point. We need to get back to people just being real, okay? Because this shit is collapsing. A lot of this entertainment stuff is collapsing. We are starting to really see just how bad, just how deep the rot goes with the music business, with the film business. A lot of these people have no talent. And they got on because they were selling an identity. right, to really a bunch of shills and to people who are cowardly and, and just want to fit in. And a lot of us in the new generation, or I consider myself, even though I'm part of the old school, I guess I'm old, but because, again, you guys are going to see. Blood World, nigga. But a lot of us are now, like, we're waiting in the wings like, okay, all right, we're tired of this shit. It's enough. We're going to show you. And I can't wait. I really think that hopefully within the next 5 years, we're going to see like a return to the real shit, a revolution, because it's been terrible. It has really been terrible. We're having to put up with FANtanos of the world. The closet racists, the frauds who don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Who, again, present diversity. FANtano, again, respectfully, I don't want to talk about his personal life necessarily, but I remember, you tried having the black girlfriend or the black wife. It's like, it doesn't mean shit. That might impress some people. I could care less, right? Again, I don't care what your identity is, who you are you straight, are you black, whatever, it doesn't matter. Are you talented? If you're not talented, please don't talk about hip-hop. Now, I can't stop you from talking about hip-hop. This is a free country. It's a free world. You get on YouTube and you talk your shit, right? But I am saying that as a hip-hop collective, and if you're a savvy hip-hop listener, you're not listening to these people. By the way, I'm just going to say it while I'm on here talking about podcasts. I don't listen to Joe Budden either, okay? Joe Budden has never said anything that I've been like, yo, that's some deep shit. Anytime I try to listen to a Joe Budden podcast, these niggas is fucking rambling. They'll have the title, it'll be something, okay, Clips dropping new album, here's our thoughts. And then it'll start off with Joe, lazy as fuck, lean on the couch, him and his, NPC, nondescript, other niggas sitting around, I had an egg sandwich this morning. Oh, did you? Yeah, man, I found that, it was sunny side up is a great way to eat the sandwich. Oh, right, and then I was listening to the Clips album. Oh, did you like the Clips album? Yeah, but I have to say that the orange juice really tastes like, just like, nigga, get to the fucking point. Get to the point. Say something of fucking relevance. Okay? I don't have time for this shit. So, again, my issue, Joe Budden, he's a black, hip-hop commentator. He's a whack rapper, respectfully. He had some shit. Focus. Joe, I always give you credit for Focus, and people know. Focus was hard, right? Joe Budden does have some joints, but at the end of the day, just because he's a brother doing it doesn't mean that I'm going to listen to him either. Do you have the talent? Yes or no? Do you care about rap? Do you listen to this? Do you love it? That's all that matters, okay? All right, man. Love y'all. Peace.